There's hundreds of cars. They're in the river.
Obviously, this is a catastrophe of historic proportions.
Once the envy of the world, America's infrastructure is crumbling. In 2007, a bridge collapsing over the Mississippi River in Minnesota left 13 people dead and more than 145 injured. But despite calls for investment, nationwide, tens of thousands of bridges remain in urgent need of repair to ensure that collapses like this don't happen again. It's been a long time since the government focused its attention on the framework that keeps the country running.
When it is completed in 1972, the network will carry 1/5 of all the country's traffic.
Years of underfunding have left America far behind many parts of Europe and Asia.
Make investments that can help America get back on track, no pun intended.
Regular rail passenger Joe Biden made updating the country's infrastructure one of his priorities in his presidential campaign. And now he's a huge step closer to realizing it.
A short while ago, the United States Senate passed the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act.
Many thought the days of any kind of bipartisan agreement in Washington were long gone. But Joe Biden prides himself on the deal-making skills he honed over more than 3 decades as a senator.
And here on this bill, we prove that we can still come together to do big things, important things for the American people.
It's a significant victory for the president and his promise to work across the aisle. But the bill still has to pass the House, where the most left-wing members of his own party could put up a fight.
And the progressives are going to insist on significant new spending. They have the ability to hold up the infrastructure bill if they're not getting the spending that they want.
His deputy is facing troubles of her own. Joe Biden's charged his Vice President Kamala Harris with the unenviable task of dealing with immigration during a surge in illegal border crossings. On her first visit to Latin America, her performance was widely panned, and she's been dogged by negative press reports about her treatment of staff.
She's in a difficult spot. The vice president really has no power other than what the president assigns to her. He's given her some of the thorniest issues, such as immigration, so she's bound to be a lightning rod for that. Because she's a woman, because she's not white, she brings out a lot of the hatred on the right that we saw for Hillary Clinton, that we saw for Barack Obama, and she's got it all in one package there. So she's going to get a lot of grief from the far right, no matter what she does.
But the right is far from the only concern for the Biden administration. It's also facing backlash from the left. There are bridges to be built within Joe Biden's own party before he can start fixing America's.
Of course, overshadowing all of these issues for President Biden is the deadly pandemic that is still killing Americans. He had promised them that they would all be able to celebrate the July the 4th national holiday independent from the virus, but his administration failed to meet its own target of vaccinating with one shot at least 70% of the American adult population until a month after July the 4th. And it's this mix of misinformation and vaccine hesitancy which is really hampering the Biden administration as it tries to battle the surge of the Delta variant here in the United States. Yesterday, there were nearly 120,000 new COVID cases. That's an 86% rise on 2 weeks ago. And there were nearly 600 new deaths, which is a 102% increase on 2 weeks ago. So really startling numbers here. So even if Joe Biden manages to bring his party together and get that infrastructure bill enacted into law, it may be that American voters don't really notice the new bridges and roads if their loved ones are still falling ill.